2022 is a really, really big year. In early January, around the 19th of January, we have the north and south nodes going from Gemini and Sagittarius into Taurus and Scorpio. So that is actually going to really be pushing things where the moon is concerned. So it's a really good idea to pay attention to all of the new and full moons this year. That's starting an eclipse season. Now, we had Jupiter move into Pisces on the 29th of December, so just before we started the year. And with Jupiter, it's the planet of expansion of knowledge and wisdom and culture and philosophy and benevolence. And so it's all about the education. So with it moving into Pisces, we're going to see quite a spiritual surge. And what I mean by spiritual, I don't mean the modalities of, cards and crystals and things like that. Of course, they complement, but spirituality is spirit being. And so what we're going to see is a surge of people more connecting in with their spirit and being more. So this is going to lead to a lot of awakening for people on many different levels, not just with what's going on globally, but personally, and in terms of looking at their own personal vision. So Jupiter is quite a significant planet because it's the biggest one in our solar system, but connecting up with Saturn, Saturn is going to be in Aquarius for the whole of 2022. So Saturn is the planet of authority and responsibility, restriction and constraint. Being in Aquarius, it's really focused on the big picture. It's also focused on humanity and social connections. And so we're really looking at the authority and responsibility of humanity in terms of, looking at everything from a bigger picture. Now, Aquarian energy is innovative and it's unconventional. It's also connected with politics. So we're going to see, 2020 and 2021 were very much connected with, change. And it's pretty obvious what's going on with all the change. So 2022 is going to be an extension of that. So you can look at that from a positive perspective, or you can see it as challenging. It really depends on where you're sitting personally as to what that will be. For me personally, 2021, even though we had lots of different restrictions, in many ways, it just helped my career in so many ways, because Saturn is also the planet of career, business, and finance. So it really depends on how you choose to perceive everything. Aquarius is also an intellectual energy. So with both Jupiter and Saturn really prodding us to look at things from a different angle, and then with the north and south nodes, or south and north nodes, going from Scorpio to Taurus, it's pushing around universal power and personal power. Now, Taurus is an energy of construction. So when we link that up with Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces, that's actually quite a positive energy. So it's about spiritual awareness and then moving into personal power, but coming from that push of the universe as well as what is happening in society. So we've got some really big energies coming up, and all the the moon energies are certainly going to bring those things to the surface for all of us throughout the year as well. So we also have Mercury retrogrades going on as well, and we have 4 this year. Typically with Mercury retrograde, we have 3 a year for 3 weeks each time, but this year we actually have 4, with the final Mercury retrograde happening in December in Capricorn. So it starts on the 15th of January with the first Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. Then we'll be moving into June, July with another Mercury retrograde in Gemini. And then we will have another Mercury retrograde happening around September, October, with the Mercury retrograde in Libra. So it's really, we are going to see some turbulent waters, but it really depends on how you want to look at it, on what that can mean for you. So my suggestion would be keep an open mind, look at how everything comes to the surface. There will be a lot of karmic work done this year. And when I'm talking about karma, I'm not talking about what goes around comes around. That's very much the commercial view. When I'm talking about karma, I'm talking about what you learn and what you teach. So this is a year of review as well. Now, also because 2022 is the number 6, connecting in with January is the first month, so it's turning that into the 7. So we're already kicking off with a spiritual awakening, that spiritual teaching. In February, we're moving into the 8 energy, but we're also connecting with both Pisces and Aries. Aquarius and Pisces. And so we're really looking at things from a bigger perspective. Finance will be a bit of a highlight in February as well, because we're really bringing everything up. So when I'm talking about finance, I'm referring to not so much money coming in, but the management of money. We're going to see that on a global scale as well. So moving into March, we're moving into that 9 energy, and 9 is the number of, closure, but we're also connecting with both Pisces and Aries in March as well. So there's this movement from spirituality into the self and looking at what's in it for me. What does this mean for me? Where are the opportunities? How do I take initiative? And then, starting to really identify what it all means. When we move into the time of April, we're working with Aries and Taurus energy, and we're also connecting with the number 1. And so again, this is, who am I? What do I stand for? What direction do I want to take? What foundations do I have? What foundations do I need? How am I going to really start to tread on solid ground? So in April, we also have the Taurus new moon happening in April, which is also connecting up with the north and south nodes. So that's, again, looking into the personal power. How do we take initiative? In May is where we will have the Scorpio full moon, and that is going to really be connecting up with the north and south nodes as well. So this is going to bring a lot of stuff to the surface. We're also working with both Taurus and Gemini energy in May. And on the 16th of May is that full moon. So this is going to be a really big one because it will actually be a lunar eclipse as well, which is going to just bring everything up and be open to destruction, because that's what Scorpion energy connects with, where Taurus is about construction and laying solid foundations. Scorpio is connected with destruction and clearing the space so that we can move out the old and bring in the new. So when we move into June, we're really connecting with that 11, in May we were connecting with the 11 energy, the duality of independence and leadership, the self, and also how we take initiative. When we move into June, we're moving into that 12-3 energy, which is all about communication. And in June, we're connecting with both Gemini and Cancer. So going from that communication of what is my message, how do I think, how do I perceive, what levels do I want to communicate with, particularly in business, who are my soul-based clients, how am I aligned with different values, and who's connecting with the values that I have as well. So when we're talking about business, following this sort of energy, it's going to help you in terms of your marketing campaign or even creating new projects. When we move into that Cancerian energy in June, we're really connecting in with home and family. Now, 6 being the year number is also connected with balance, home and family. So this June-July period, where we're in the time of Cancer, is really going to be, really pushing up in terms of intuition, in terms of empathy and compassion. The motto for Cancer is I feel. So we're really going to be feeling all the things, all the emotions, and connecting in with the number 6 with June being the number 6, there's this duality of what is balance. How do we achieve balance? Maybe redefining what balance means. So when we move into the time of in July, and we're working with Cancer and Leo, we're really moving into that home and family and intuition, emotional, empathy, sentimental type energy. But then moving into that Leo energy in July is connecting in with the individual and the ego. Now, when we work with ego, we're not necessarily looking at what is positive or negative. In my opinion, ego is the center point, and it moves either way depending on how we perceive things as individuals. But Leo is also a creative energy. And so when we're connecting with creativity, we're really looking at how we can bring ideas into form. So we go into that reflective energy of the individual in July. But as we move into August and we start to connect into that Leo energy and the Virgo energy, we're feeling into what is it that I want to create? How can I get organized? What do I feel in my heart? Leo rules the heart. And so connecting in with the heart balances out the ego, because when we're connecting in with the heart, we can overcome a fear. But if we're also connecting into the heart, we can find strength and courage that we didn't realize that we actually had. So this is about the drama of it all. Now, when I'm talking about drama, I'm more referring to performance in action, and that can be either positive or negative, depending on how you perceive it as an individual. Then when we move into the time of Virgo, at the end of August, we're more connecting into how do we think and perceive and communicate. We had the ideas and communicated things in the time of Gemini, but now we're looking at how we can put those ideas to work, because Virgo is all about work and service to others, and ruled by the planet Mercury, it really is looking at what are the structures, who does what, how can I connect, and also take care of my health and nutrition and healing as well, because Virgo really feels into the purity of life. It's a perfectionism energy. And so perfectionism is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. It's not set in stone by anyone, because we all perceive things so differently. But as we move into the time of Libra, we're working in August and September, and the August energy is coming from the individual of Leo, really feeling into what do I want to do? How do I want to work? What state am I in? To moving into the time of September, October in Libra, where we're connecting in with, yes, I'm an individual and I have things to do, but I really need to connect with other people. And so we start to really explore relationships with the time of Libra. And in Libra, we really need to focus on the relationship with the self, so that we can then understand the relationships we have outside of ourselves. Now, Libra is also connected with fairness and justice and peace and harmony and equality. But when we look at what equality is, you have to have two of the same to have it as equal. And none of us are the same, even though we all may have similar values. So we start to really navigate towards people and create relationships or reinforce relationships that reflect our values. And in doing that, we then start to find balance. And again, balance, again, like anything, is a perception in our human construct that we determine based on what feels good for us. And so we tend to connect with people who feel good with us. And we tend to learn a lot more lessons from people who don't feel good. The ironic thing is, in the human world, we tend to reflect more on the negative than we do on the positive. But this year, I want to encourage everyone to reflect on the positive relationships that they have, because that's going to reflect the values that you have within yourself, and also how you can connect with people with similar values, because we're going to move into the time of Scorpio, which is October, November. And in that time, we're having a new moon in Scorpio, connecting up with the North and South nodes. South node actually, because the South node's in Scorpio. So again, the new moon is going to be it's a solar eclipse, or it has that solar eclipse type energy, where it's really bringing things to the surface, really helping us to focus on death and rebirth and transformation. And, what is it about the death and rebirth of a situation? Death isn't always about the coffin. Death is about the final ending, or the cut of something. And I feel that in October, November is where we're really going to be looking at what ties do we need to keep hold of and what ties do we cut, you know. Scorpio is also a magnetic universal type energy where we can attract things to us. So be careful what you wish for in the time of Scorpio. Be careful what you say as well, because words have meaning and meaning has intention, and intention is what creates energy that everyone responds to. So if you are focused on really manifesting things in a positive way for 2023, then October, November is where things are going to be really highlighted. Also, it's an 11 number, November, and connecting up with the 6, it's going to turn that into a 17, which makes it an 8. So that's also money, power, karma, connecting in with that Scorpion energy. Moving on from there, we're moving into November, December, which is Sagittarian energy. And Sagittarius energy is really focused on truth and freedom and expansion and higher levels of education, philosophy, religion, culture, travel. And when we look at travel, travel isn't always about getting in a vehicle or some sort of carrier and going to an, you know, far and exotic place. Travel, we can travel through life. And this is really helping us to see, how are we traveling through life? What is it that we have learnt this year? Because by the time we're moving into November and December, the year's over, it's on its way out, and we are really in that position of reflection. And so Sagittarian energy helps us to identify what to reflect on, what lessons have we learnt this year, and how has it contributed to me as a spiritual being having a human experience. But how does this help me to define my truth? Given that we will have a whole year where Saturn is sitting in Aquarius and really pushing buttons on the political landscape. And when I talk about politics, I'm not just talking about the governments and, you know, how we look at the world. Politics happens on every level. It can happen in a family, it can happen in a group of friends, it can happen in a community, and in a society in particular. When we look at politics, we look at the ideologies associating with each other and how we come to a final decision or a final understanding. And so politics really does have that seesaw effect where you can be contributing an idea that some people understand and agree with, or you could be contributing an idea that people just don't agree with. And that creates a political interaction. And so throughout the whole year, we are going to see many different ideologies being presented. And we're also going to be tapping into our own perception, our own intellect, our own experience and knowledge and wisdom that we've gathered throughout our lives, which will then help us to determine whether we agree with that particular ideology or we don't. And that in turn creates a political landscape that we're all going to be working through. You know, with Saturn sitting in Aquarius, it's testing us all to intellectualize what we perceive as our personal values and then contribute our perception and opinion around that. So we all know that what we see is a perception and what we hear is an opinion. And so therefore we are going to be, you know, sharing our perception and opinion, which will agree with others or not. And so this is where you're going to see everything sort of come to a head by the end of December when we move into that time of Capricorn, which brings everything up in terms of the karmic understanding of what we have learnt this year, how have we contributed to other people's lives and taught them something, you know, well, what position are we in terms of our career? You know, what choices have we made? How have those choices you know, held us back or moved us forward? What is the undercurrent of fear that we are working with as individuals or collectively? How are we feeling insecure based on those fears? Are they in our imagination, or are they something that is being brought into a reality that we have to deal with? Conflict can come from the assumption of what a fear is or the ideology that's being presented. So it's really going to be quite a big year in terms of where the planets are, what is happening with each of the zodiac energies when each of the planets pass through them and interact. Of course, there's going to be a lot of planetary movement. There will be retrogrades. And I just want to say with retrograde, it's not always a negative. You know, retrograde gets a very bad rap. But in essence, retrograde is simply the opportunity for review. And the energy is slowing down, giving us the opportunity to review. And so when I was casting all the charts for 2022 and I saw that there were 4 retrogrades, I personally went, 4 opportunities for review. If you keep an open mind for a start, having an open mind goes without saying, but I feel that this year as individuals, we are going to have a lot of things come up. With 4 Mercury retrogrades, we've got 4 really big opportunities for review. When we have the first retrograde, it's happening in Aquarius and it's helping us to see the big picture. It's also helping us to see, you know, what changes do we need to make. We've just had a new moon on the 3rd, which was yesterday. So we've just had a new moon in Capricorn, and that's kind of opened the door for 2022. Understanding where the new and full moons are each month will definitely help you to keep on top of the energy, because the moon governs our emotions, our intuition, our subconscious memory and programming. It also connects with our ability to nurture. And, you know, my suggestion is this year, nurture yourself first. It's like having the oxygen mask on first and then helping others. I think as individuals, it's really important to nurture yourself, but also to be kind with others who don't understand that too. Because the thing is, everyone is experiencing these energies, but we're all experiencing it from our own personal makeup and perspective. And so, you know, if there is conflict, take a moment to look at what is the core or the root cause of the conflict, rather than who said what. Really look at why it's coming up and why is it coming up in your realm as well, because it's coming up to show you something. Everything that happens in our lives is coming up to show us something. And in terms of karmic lessons, you may feel like you've wrapped that lesson up, but if it's a lifelong lesson, you're going to learn it on different levels. The people around you are simply going to be the triggers that offer you opportunities to learn. So rather than look at life from doom and gloom and holy shit, this is a big year and, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, most fear comes from the unknown, from not knowing. So I think that the most important thing to do this year is nurture yourself, anchor into what your heart is showing you, feel into that heart space, because the head only knows what you've learnt this lifetime. The gut is the instinct that will navigate you through, and your instincts really are triggering you to be more intuitive. Your intuition interprets those instinct feelings. So allow yourself to really have that mind, body, soul connection. Feel into what feels good for you. And I say to all of my clients, if your head, your heart, and your gut are in alignment, then the answer is always yes. But if they're not in alignment, then you always need more information, or the answer is simply no. But honor that rather than doing what you think other people want you to do or saying what you think other people want to hear. Feel in and honor yourself, because in this year, you're going to see so much more of your strength and your courage that you didn't realize that you had. Your fears and insecurities will be triggered. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie. You're going to be triggered. We all will be. But it's how we work with those triggers and how we value the lesson those triggers are teaching us. And on a lot of occasions, we have lessons that we don't like to learn, but we don't have to like the lesson, but we do have to learn it. And so, you may see a shift in your social circle. You may see a shift in the way that you interact with people throughout this year. With Saturn in Aquarius, it's going to push the buttons for everyone and create change around how we interact in society. And sometimes that may involve, you know, letting people go that you thought were going to be there forever. But you can let them go without sending them off with a kick up the backside. You can let them go with love and with kindness. And this is what I'm saying about acting with kindness, because karmic lessons do expire. You know, that doesn't mean that the friendship ends. It just means the friendship, the way it was, is changing and ending that cycle. So I think that having an open mind and looking at what the possibilities are, and then feeling into what is in alignment with you, is going to help you to identify how those possibilities actually apply to your bigger picture. There's so many ways to identify how you can use it for your own benefit. And I want to go back to Jupiter and Saturn again, okay? With Jupiter being in Pisces, the greatest benefit that we can have is to honor our soul purpose, is to honor, you know, who we are and what we are here for. You know, we can get so caught up in life and in the interactions that we have in life, and that's quite superficial. And I don't mean that from a superficial perspective, in that it's not important. It's on the surface. This year, with Jupiter in Pisces, it's going to really call for us to look deeper than that, to really feel into alignment. And Saturn in Aquarius is calling for us to really look at our big picture, to really feel into and connect with what is in alignment, and then look at how we can contribute that to humanity, or how is humanity contributing to us. Pisces is the sign of influence over the masses and the institutions of society. So with Jupiter sitting in Pisces this year, it's really helping us to see, you know, what is the influence? What are the institutions in society doing? But then what does that come back to me? What are my philosophies? What are my beliefs? How am I identifying with what is going on outside of me? Does this feel in alignment? And if not, how can it become some form of alignment in a way that gives me the freedom to, you know, be my own influence? I think that, you know, there are so many different perceptions and interpretations about what having a spiritual life means. And so I always say to people, come back to what is an alignment for you with a spiritual life. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It can look any way that is in alignment for you and connects with what you're here to do. And really, if we were all the same, if we did everything the same, where would the learning occur anyway? We're all here to have different thoughts and ideas. We're all here to do things differently so that we can all trigger each other to see what is best for us in the end. So I think that, you know, in terms of navigating through and looking at everything that's going on, always take that moment to come back to center and come back to self. I think that's the most important thing, no matter what happens this year, is really coming back to self. Who am I? What am I here for? How am I wanting, or what is my desire to contribute? How will that help me to grow so that I can then help others grow as a result of what I have learned, so that I can then share? And I think that if we look at things from that big picture perspective, but also come back to self, honor our own big picture, then we can see clearer how we can contribute.